I'm Mel,
And I'm Andrea.
and we've been asking ourselves, WTF? Where's the fun?
So, welcome to our podcast for heart-led business leaders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More impact, more wealth, more joy, and more magic, all while having even more fun than ever before.
As co-founders of FunX, we believe that life and business is way more fulfilling when you're following the fun.
So we're flipping the script on success, giving you permission to create from a whole new paradigm where you can have a lasting impact while nurturing your well-being and having a freaking blast along the way.
So join us each week for engaging solo episodes
and real conversations with experts who are embodying this new paradigm of leadership, spiritual wealth, business growth, and of course, fun.
If you're ready to reignite your spark, make bold moves, and lead from a whole new energy,
let's jump in and have some fun. I just recorded such a fun episode with Kristina Bartold. She is the co-founder and CEO of The Social Snippet. She just loves helping entrepreneurs and small businesses grow their communities online while using social media and podcasting. Kristina has been working in social media almost 10 years as a side hustle and finally realized it was her passion and calling to pair her extensive experience coaching with her love for social strategy. The Social Snippet was born with her co-founder, Maria, who is also incredible, and the rest is history. So Kristina spends most of her days recording podcast episodes for the community podcast, coaching business owners on how to grow their businesses, or hosting events for local female entrepreneurs to grow. I absolutely love Kristina. We had such a great conversation all around social media, including my love for LinkedIn, which is surprising even for me to say. And she just provides so much value in terms of even cultivating and growing in-person online communities. So check it out. You're going to love this episode. All right. So welcome back to another episode of WTF, Where's the Fun? I'm Andrea, and today I'm so excited for this episode. We have one of the master community builders, Kristina Bartold. Welcome.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Andrea. You and I, we just recorded for my podcast too, and I always love talking to you. So 2 hours with you is like a total treat.
I know. I feel like this is also great for me. I feel like I have so many questions for you. I feel like this podcast episode will probably come out first, but at the end of your episode, I feel like we just started a whole new podcast basically. So I think this will probably lead into a series.
Yeah.
Love it. So I feel like there's so many different incredible things that we could start with. Like you really are, and I don't throw this word out there lightly, but I really do believe that one of your superpowers is cultivating and building community, and not just any types of community. I think you're actually masterful at both the online and the business community. I'm curious though, we've never talked about this. Like, is this always been important to you? Like, even as a kid, was community something that you created, or is this just something that kind of, I don't know, occurred in entrepreneur world?
No, it's definitely been a theme, and I actually really leaned into that more and more as we worked with our mutual friend Alex Street, and we were trying to figure out kind of like our story and like me and Maria's story and what that looks like. But community has always been kind of a core feature of mine. I've always loved relationships with people. My background originally is in conflict resolution, and I have a master's in leadership, and so I love people and how we all interact with each other. And then my formative years, my early years were spent working in residence life. So I would do I used to manage buildings, and I would manage resident RAs and their teams, and I managed res managers, and that's always been kind of it was a really hard career to leave because I actually loved a lot of people have a story, and I know yours is a bit like this where you're kind of I was at the end and I wasn't having fun. I had fun until the last day. I loved it. It just wasn't totally what I was meant for, and always had this itch that I might have been meant for something different. Always loved unstructured like that. I wasn't really ever meant for a job. And so I know that now, but community has always been the underpinning of what I've been interested in, because I have a deep care for people and relationships. And that's been, I see it in the way that I do business. I see it in the way that I live life. And and then that's been something that I've tried to help other people cultivate too, to help them grow their businesses.
That makes so much sense. I can totally picture you being part of
You know what, Andrea, there are these memes out there that are I can tell you were heavily involved on campus. And I will tell you, there's not a week that goes by that someone doesn't send it to me. And I'm I was. I was, yeah. But that's how I like kind of got all my chops, my skills, and that's how Maria and I met. And Maria worked for me and in that season, and like when we were really young, and so it like we grew up kind of together that way, and that's always been kind of our mindset is like lifting each other up, us being in community, us being at events. We used to run events together, so now all of this feels very natural and very easy, because we had all those years of like kind of practice.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Yeah, you couldn't think of a better basically start for you, because I really do think, and we talked about this a little bit on your podcast, but it's almost like it's prepping for, or even like it's the things we did before are so connected to what we do now, even if they seem not connected. But yours is like pretty through line. Like that makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't too, because the social media aspect always felt very random for me. But it's been interesting because the social media thing, I always did freelance social. This is something I talk about all the time, but I always did freelance social from like the minute I graduated university. I always understood it. I understood how people could sell on it. I never wanted to do it for myself, but like kind of got it. And what was so interesting is as I'm doing it, and like I'm doing it for these companies and these businesses or whatever, I could never shake, and this is kind of like relates to our conversation about Mel and her painting business. I could never shake the fact that it felt like it was something that I shouldn't be doing because I had all this education. Like I was like, I have 2 master's degrees. Like I can't be posting on Instagram. Like that's not what I should be doing. But I felt so purposeful doing it. And when I was able to help businesses make sales or think about things differently, coach them, like I loved that. But I had so much like so many limiting beliefs. And it wasn't until finally Maria and I were kind of like, let's give this a shot. Like, let's see. And it took off like rapid fire. That I realized I was like, I think I'm like doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing. And our lens has always been about building community online. It's never been about virality. It's never been about, hacks or anything like that. It's always been about community, because we know that that's what people like. That's how people buy. We buy from people we know, like, and trust. And we have a unique opportunity online to be able to show that in a way other people haven't had.
And I think there is an art to social media. And I think some people like you, like I think get it. And I think for some of us, probably myself included, where it wasn't necessarily natural at first. So I think, and I think for our audience, it is a pretty good mix of people are on social media. And I think for the most part, they're ready in that next. They're like, okay, I'm in that growth. How do we help them? How do you help
Mhm.
me?
Yeah. Well, I think it's about focusing. Like, I think the mistake that a lot of people make with social is like they don't have a very clear understanding of who they're selling to. Like, and that's actually like one of the like cardinal mistakes on social is like, one, you don't know who you're selling to, and two, you're selling something people don't want. And that is something where like it's not really that fixable. Like when you start like an offer, I can't tell you how many times people make offers and I'm like, who asked you for that? And they're like, oh, like I had this great vision or this great idea. And I'm like, you never tested that with anyone, you never asked anyone if they wanted it or the price point or all of these things. That is why community is so important on social. Is like you need the response from these people to be able to inform your next business move. So I would say it's getting super clear on what it is that you sell and who you sell it to. So that's number one. If you feel like you're like, oh, I have 5 different audiences that I sell to, and I love to sell to these people, and I sell to those people, and I sell there, that's like, that mess is not going to be clear enough for people to buy from you. So I think for the first exercise, I would say is like find out who you sell to and how you can add the most value to them. The next is like adding value all the time, like trying to really give as much as you can. There's a lot of sales adages and ideas that it's like, oh, if I give too much value, people won't work with me or they won't buy from me on social. It's just not true. Like people want to buy from people who give value, especially with how much free information we've got there. They're buying from you and your energy. So once you know who you're selling to, how do you add the most amount of value to them? And then test a lot along the way. What are you guys looking for? What would be most helpful to you? What would like I'm seeing that a lot of people are having trouble with this. Would this be helpful to you? Would this type of offer be helpful? Because I think that that is the number one way that you're going to be able to maximize using your community. And then people feel like they've been part of it while you're building it. It's kind of like a big win-win. But those are the 2 big mistakes I see people make and some of the ways that you can kind of get around it.
Do you do you think there's part of it where like you think you're creating this type of community and actually your community is something
Totally.
different than, or they see you different than what you originally thought the idea was going to be?
100%, 100%. That happens all the time. And that's why actually like market research, having conversations with your followers is so important because sometimes we're selling to the wrong people. And I'll give you an example. So Maria and I, when we started our business, the the dream actually wasn't an agency. The dream was a bunch of online products where we would teach people how to do their own social. So Maria, the agency really took off. Maria was still really passionate about us doing this course. We run this course. Nobody really buys it. Like one or two people. We're like, oh, that's weird. Like it's $1,000. You get tons of access to us. The people who had done it were mavens by the end. Like it was nuts. And so I was like, this is weird that this won't sell, but let's try again. So we try again. I think two people buy it. We're like, wow, like this is not selling. Like this is not selling. And really what we realized was one, our audience either wants us to do it all for them, or like they're not in the season of like, I need a course, or they're so beginner that they don't have the money for a course. So it was like, we were like, well, you won't pay $1,000 for this. Like this could change your business. Like think about how much time this is going to save you. And people were like, I don't have $1,000. I'm just getting started. Or they were like, I have more than $1,000 and I just want to pay you to do it. So it was really interesting that we were like, oh, we actually cultivated kind of the wrong audience for this, which is where the Social Business Club, our membership, came in, because we were like, oh, you might not be able to afford $1,000, but could you afford $37 a month? Yes. That was a no-brainer for people. And we put the course in there, and then we do 2 hours of coaching. We give like some templates and whatever. People love it, which I'm so blessed by. Like I love coaching in there. But what's so cool is like we actually met people where they were at the right time. And I think where people make the mistake is that they'll build an offer out that's like for them. And they're like, oh, I love this offer, and I think people are going to love this too. And you can't outsell a bad offer, including us. We can't outsell a bad offer. So sometimes it's like really about honing in on like, who are these people and what do they actually need?
Yeah. Okay. This is so good. So, do you find that people have a lot of like resistance or shit when it comes to socials, like on their own end of things?
Like mindset?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah, big time. I think people have one, it's like social media is like the good and the bad, right? Where it's like it brings out insecurities in people like nothing else. I think like, you see people who are so successful and you're like, wow, why not me? You are giving people access to you in a way that like we would never give access in real life. Like you're giving people access to criticize you. Your mom's following you. Your high school friends are following you. Like, right? Like there's just so much shit there, right? Where it's like, it's really hard. And so even I find it too, or like sometimes like I'll meet with a prospective client and they'll be like, oh, like I'm really stressed because, my high school friends are like looking and I'm nervous about selling in front of them. I'm like, what are your high school friends doing? Like, what are they doing right now? Like, I mean, maybe they're doing something great. I don't know. But it's like, don't worry so much about that. But it brings out the worst in our insecurities, including like me and Maria.
Yeah. I know even, and I can think of when I first started, I was terrified for a lot of those reasons.
Yeah.
But also, I think for me, it was like the perfectionist in me. I'm like, I have to get it right. I have to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of also, yeah, like having, I think you and Maria do a great job at making it like, just be yourself. And then as you're doing that, it takes the pressure off. It allows you to show up and actually have a community. I think that's the important part.
Yeah.
But also, I think as we expand, I guess is the right word, to our next level, that brings up a whole new level of and I'm finding that right now. And it's like even I'm slightly confused as to who my audience is because we have the fun experience, which I absolutely love helping. And this is more on the individual level. Like it's the leader, the entrepreneur, it could even be like that high level professional. And then on the other side, I do, for my speaking, it's corporate. So it's event planners. So do I speak to event planners or am I speaking to, and I think that's why I like LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, I'm like, I'm going to speak to event planners.
Yeah.
And then Instagram, I'm just going to speak with my community. Like, does that make sense?
Totally. And I actually encourage a version of that usually. Is like when people have multiple audiences that they sell to, like you're building social proof, right? So you know that when you're posting on social, like someone might not buy from you today, but they might buy from you in 6 months. They might buy from you in a year. Like that can happen over time. I'm sure you've seen that, Andy, like where it's been like you've probably posted something and then a year later someone's like, oh, I'm like finally ready to work with you. And you're like, where were you? Like, where have you been? So I think it's a reminder that this happens. But the other piece is that, like, when we have like multiple social media platforms, like, we can do kind of what we want with them. So, like, for example, LinkedIn is like can be very corporate. I think it is changing. If you're B2B, I think it's a great place for you to be. No pun intended. But if you're like, a speaker, that's a great place for you to be speaking, because that's actually where people who are looking for speaking are looking, right? But are they looking on Instagram too? Sure, but probably not to the same extent. That might be a great place for you to be working on leads for FunX. And maybe your messaging is a little bit different. We find this too with us. Like, we sell so many different things. And High Vibe Women, I don't do a lot with LinkedIn on High Vibe Women. And every time I do, it's successful. But it's like, I'm just so used to talking about social media over there, because that's actually where social media clients come from. And I have gotten social media clients from there where they've been warm to me in some capacity. So they come from LinkedIn, but then they see me on LinkedIn so consistently that I'm top of mind. That's great, right? So I think it's about finding, like, the spaces where you want to hang out and where you can add the most value, and like, kind of honing your message in there. But there's no problem with, like, your message being a bit different on different platforms, as long as your funnel's clear. So, like, making sure that you have a great, like, website that outlines the different things that you do. You've got wait lists for the things that you're doing. Those things make a big difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then where do you like hanging out for you personally?
Yeah. So you know what? Like, I'm always an experimenter. So, like, I love new things. So, Instagram's been my home base kind of for social since kind of the beginning. So that's where I have probably, like, my best, most warm audience. And when I go to events, that's where I'll, like, really, because events are a big kind of part of our business. That's really where I connect with people. But LinkedIn has become kind of a new kind of professional space for us. Where I love LinkedIn. I love connecting on there with people. I love, like, the thought leadership aspect on there, because we talked about this a little bit at the end of our podcast episode together, because I was like, what do you mean you love LinkedIn? Like, no one loves LinkedIn but me. But, like, only 1% of people who are on LinkedIn are actually posting. So it has, like, a huge opportunity still for you to be a thought leader. That's different than other platforms. So if you're feeling oversaturated on other platforms, LinkedIn's a great place for you to be a thought leader, which is what I've leaned into. Lately, I've also really, and I was telling you this too, kind of offline, like, I love Threads. Because Threads is kind of like it's Instagram's Twitter. It's great.
Oh.
But it's very connected to Instagram. So you get all your Instagram followers there, and you can kind of connect with them, and it's really good. It's, like, kind of quick-witted, but it's really an opportunity there too. Like, the people are kinder. And it's like, it has, like, a really, like, nice kind of feeling to it. And so I've seen, we've gotten leads from there, but it's also been more like, I post about High Vibe Women, and I post about thoughts I'm having, and then I see those people kind of trickle into my Instagram. So that's kind of where I love hanging out most, is I would say, like, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, but not all places all the time. And that's also something to know too, is that, like, I always have to say this, we are inundated by people who are omnipresent. They're everywhere. We see them everywhere, and we feel that that's, like, what we need. I don't think that is what we need. I think if you've mastered one platform really well, you're doing fine.
Yeah, I think so too, because otherwise you're not going to do it.
No, and this is something I find all the time, where people will be like, this happens all the time. People will come on and they'll, like, working with us, and they're like, I need to be on, like, all platforms. And I'm like, if you check your DMs in every platform, I'll allow it. Like, if you are going to connect with these people, then sure. Because there's actually no point of even posting on these platforms if you're not going to make connections, or you're not going to build relationships. So even, like, we had a client who was very successful on LinkedIn, was doing awesome. And I was like, girlfriend, people are messaging you for, like, work. And she was like, I hate the platform and I don't want to log into it. So I'm okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, and it's like that concept of, people are like, oh, you leave money on the table with, like, not being everywhere. And Natalie Ellis from Boss Babes, like, leave the money there. Like, it's fine. Like, because I'm going to go all in on the things that work for me.
Yeah.
So you have to also like the platforms.
Today's episode of WTF, Where's the Fun, is sponsored by The Fun Experience, a curated mastermind for established business owners, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More magic, more joy, more wealth, and more fun than ever before. So if you're ready for a peer-to-peer mastermind that's helping you to embody more leadership, more impact, and make bold moves, The Fun Experience is where it's at. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's true. I never thought I'd be like, LinkedIn's fun, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I like that it's simple.
Yeah.
There's still some things that I don't totally get for it. And I feel like I'm very much a newbie.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's almost like starting fresh. It's like, I don't know. There's it's the thought leadership, I think, that I like as well.
are the things, sorry, this is your podcast, now I'm asking a question, but what once a podcaster, always a podcaster. What are the things that you are struggling with LinkedIn?
I think it's a couple things.
Yeah.
One, I want my profile to be optimized, and I'm actually working on that. Like even like my banner, like making it, I've been in such a behind the scenes with doing my keynotes and like switching my branding that I haven't actually been forward facing as much. But this is the month that that's actually happening. So knowing how to even optimize it so that I'm speaking to the right people. And then I think if I'm going to be honest about the thing, I love a good example. If I can see, okay, here's an example of different ways that you can show up and provide value, like value for it's like I love the idea of providing value. And sometimes I'm like, it doesn't come as second nature because I like speaking it out. Like, and that's why we really wanted to create the podcast, because I'd rather create as I speak and then take that and share that. But it's not really second nature for me to be like, here's a snippet that I'm then going to put on LinkedIn because that's going to be valuable.
Yes.
So it's almost like, what am I sharing to then be of value to then grow my audience?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like, in terms of bio optimization, the things that are the most important are one, that like people know what you do and how they can work with you. So like really just that funnel of like examples of you speaking, things that you're doing, examples of fun acts, like that's gonna be the stuff that is the best. And then I always say this too, but it's making sure the profile picture you use is the same picture that you're using on Instagram is like same picture you're using everywhere. So there's that level of relatability and like connection. Like people are like, oh, there she is again. There she is again. Like you again, like social media in a lot of ways is a game of like, how much can you show up? Like for somebody, like how many times? Because there is a level of fake authority that comes with social. That's like you see, like I always say this about Alex Hormozy, where you know Alex Hormozy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always say this about him because I think it's so funny, but like that man could sell me anything. Like literally anything, because I just see him so often. I trust anything he says. Like I'm like, oh, this man in this nose strip's back. Like he's coming for me, right? So again, you want to create that sense of, oh, she's everywhere, she's doing well. Because people want to work with people who are doing well, who are in the energy of their business, who are excited. So that's the first thing I would say for profile optimization. And then the second thing I would say for value is, so something that I see a lot of people make as a mistake on social is they think that they don't add value. So because we're so in the weeds on what we do, that it's very easy for us to be like, everybody knows about this. And I find this all the time with social.
Totally.
I'm always like, everybody knows how to use hashtags properly. And then I'll teach in a community and someone's like, hi, I have a question. And I'm like, I can't believe that you just asked me that, because like, and no shade coming from a place of like, I can't believe I haven't made content about that, because I assume everyone knows everything that I know. So this is where you get to like kind of be a bit of a detective, and you get to kind of figure out like, what do people want to know from you and how do you add value before they ask for it? So little things you can do. When you have a discovery call with someone or when you are connecting with someone, having a note on your phone of every question they ask you. Anything that one of your ideal clients asks you, another ideal client is wondering. So I get this all the time. People ask me, oh, like, how do I optimize my LinkedIn? I'm like, I should just come up with a one pager on how to do that. That's a great idea. Like, you just ask that question. Perfect. And that would be useful to you, but it's probably useful to 10 other people. So you start to kind of put like kind of clues together. The other thing you can do as well, and this is where like I'm very careful with using AI for content, because I never want it to be like, you put in something in AI, copy and paste. You put something in AI, copy and paste. Like that's not what it should be used for. But it should be used for ideation. What if you went into AI and you said, this is my ideal client, what are they wondering about? And they'll tell you, AI will tell you, like, this is what they're asking. This is what would be helpful. You could say, hey, here are my top 10 best performing podcast episodes and their transcripts. What questions were like, do you think most resonated with my audience? What, like, you ask those types of things, and then it'll tell you like where the value is. So I've even done this with like, I will take my top 10, and your podcast is a bit different than mine. Sometimes like I do really tactical, like this is like how you do this, this, and this. But I'll put that in ChatGPT and I'll be like, for LinkedIn, and I'll be like, hey, I need 10 LinkedIn posts about this transcript. And it'll give me a bunch of ideas. And I'm like, oh, it's so interesting that that would be helpful to someone. And then that is my like best performing post. So I posted one the other day that was about how people don't engage with you, but then they buy from you, like silent lurkers. People love this post. I was like, this is a common concept. Everybody knows that not everyone likes everything. You're not liking everything. Why would you assume that all your clients are liking everything, right? And people were like, oh my God, Kristina, you're so right. Like, people are watching me. And I'm like, yes, they're watching you, but I needed somebody to give me that prompt. So sometimes that can be helpful too.
Oh, that's so good. You said, oh, I was gonna write it down, but I feel like
Sorry, I went on a monologue over there.
once I start taking notes, I'm a note taker and I'll just be like head down in the notes. But it was about providing the value before people ask for it. And I think that is brilliant in like, and I agree. I'm not a big, like, let's use AI to create our thoughts. And I do think there is a way where we could, if we care about our people and we want to help them, we can be detectives and we can figure out ways to provide more value. And I think that's such a tangible way to at least get the ball going to then spark some new ideas. So that's so helpful.
Well, I think one of the mistakes people make is like, it's this like, I think everyone knows what I know. And it's like, you are the expert, your audience isn't. So what can you do to like show them, like even Andrew with the stuff that you do, right? Like you probably look at your stuff and you're like, well, it's like common sense. Like, let's have more fun in business. Let's do this. Like, what kind of value can I add online? But there's somebody out there that's listening who's like spiraling out of control that hasn't even thought about fun as an option, that hasn't even thought about that as a priority. And you saying something is going to be the thing that like lights the switch for them, like that flips it for them. So even for me with social, like I think it's so odd that I have to tell people to network. Like, and I'm like, go meet somebody, or like I'll meet somebody and I'm like, I'm not going to take you on as a social media client because I actually think you would benefit more from going out for coffee with 10 people in your community. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. And I'm like always surprised by that, but that's my zone. And that's not somebody else's zone. So it's just remembering that, like, how can we add as much value as we can for people? But remembering that like we are the experts and that's why we have this calling for whatever it is that we're doing. And that's why we have to build it.
Yes, I love that. It's almost like permission to like really stand in that. Because I think I think a lot of us are, and I remember saying this years ago at one of your events. It was like, I'm too humble. And it's like, at a certain point, you got to get over yourself and be like, if you really want to help people, it's like, you got to say the same things over and over again, the same stories, the same points, because it's going to be that repetition, but it's also going to be like, what's that thing that you're meant to do that nobody else here can do?
100%. And you'd be surprised by how few people hear you all the time. And that's another misconception I see with social. I laughed about this when I did my pregnancy announcement, because I did my pregnancy announcement. I got a ton of engagement. It was like awesome. So I was like, everybody knows now we are all on the same page of why I cancel all these meetings. This is like, we're on the same page. And then every probably 2 weeks, someone will message me and they'll be like, oh my God, you're pregnant? And I'm like, what do you mean, oh my God, I'm pregnant? You liked that post. Like, how do you not know? But it's like, we don't have the capacity to remember all these things about everybody. And like, we don't have the capacity to we're seeing like 3% of people's social content. So even if you feel like you're being repetitive, people are not seeing what it is that you're doing all the time. And that's okay. So it's also okay for you to repost stuff. It's okay for you to say something more than once. Encouraged, actually, because it's like people are not always going to see what it is that we're doing, even if it's great. And so just like a reminder and permission, if people need it, that be that soapbox. Like one of my mentors always says, like talk about this until you're sick of yourself.
Yeah.
And you'll see people are like, I still get it, where sometimes people are like, oh my God, I didn't know you did that. I'm like, what do you mean? High Vibe Women's such a good example of this. When we sell tickets, I'll be like 3 VIP tickets left or 5 VIP tickets left. And people will be like, where did the VIP tickets go? And I'm like, what do you mean every single day I've come on here and I've said that there were 5? I meant it. But it's like people aren't always seeing everything. And so that's just a reminder for us to be able to kind of be able to repeat ourselves if we need to.
I think that's such a great example. And I was actually thinking about that. I think it's a really good segue too, because you don't just do social media, as if that's not enough. You also cultivate community in person as well. And I think the bridge to that is kind of what you shared about the networking. Like, I think that's a big part of I think you're part of your own networks, but you really create networking for other people, including myself. I love the communities you create. So how did it come? Like, what came first? Was it social media that came first, or was it the in-person, or did it all kind of come at the same time?
Social media definitely came first, and then we were going to masterminds in the States, like ourselves, like attending them. And this was kind of like the end of COVID, like, like 2021. Like I remember like when we left, it was like one of the, like you were wearing a mask on the plane kind of thing. And so Maria and I do this mastermind in Phoenix, love it, blows our business up. Like it's like we 5x our business. It was great. We do it again. It's like so good. And one of my mentors was like, we were like, who's winning right now in business? Like who's winning? And he's like, the people who can get people in a room. Like the people who can get people in a room together talking, like, they're that's how you win in business. Is like whether you're the cultivator, you're the attendee, like whatever, it's about the in-person. Like people are really craving that. So we came back and we were like, oh, like, wouldn't it be amazing? We have, at this time 40 clients, a lot of them are women. Wouldn't it be amazing if we just got a bunch of women together for like a lunch? And we get these women together, there's 12 of us. It's like we close the joint down. Like I'm like, guys, you can't stay here any longer. Like you must go home to your families. And then the next one had 30 people, and then they've grown kind of since then. Now we have our 2 100-person events a year. We're looking at growing that as well. So they've been pretty incredible. But the in-person definitely came from the social snippet. Like we're like the social snippet definitely like birthed this. But it's been amazing because I think the in-person has like, I've seen people's businesses blow up in these rooms because you get in the room, you meet someone who's 2 steps ahead of you who can pull you up. You've got people who are 5 steps behind you who have a connection that you're looking for. You're in a room, there's a side hustler and an 8-figure entrepreneur sitting at the same table. Like it's amazing. And so we just didn't see the community that we wanted to exist here. And then, so that's why we started creating High Vibe Women. And, we did Business Breakthrough. Stacey, Steve and I did that a little bit. And then Jeanette and I have been doing our retreats. So there's been like lots of like spin-offs of these like communities. But really what I'm so passionate about is like getting people together. Like it's never really even about me. Like even at High Vibe Women, I always laugh because at the end people take photos with us. And I think it's like the funniest thing ever because I'm always like trying to escape. And then we like Maria's like, we have to stay. Like we can't leave. And I'm like, okay. And then so we'll like stay on stage and people will come up and I'm like, do you want a photo with the mic? Like, and people are like, no, we want a photo with you. And I'm like, I'm the chicken nugget in the air fryer. Like, I'm just hanging out over here. Like, this is literally not about me. And so I think, yeah, that's been kind of the birth of it and how it's kind of grown. But it really, like, even trying to make it less about us and really trying to make it about these women and their growth.
Yeah. And there is like, I have so much respect for people that host events in person and not in person, but specifically in person, because there's a lot that goes into it. Like a lot.
There's a lot that goes into it. And I think the bigger part is like there's a lot of risk. And I think people don't really talk about that much, where it's like, our last event cost 6 figures to put on, right? So it's like, which is great. And we had a profit. It was fine. But it's like, people are always like, oh my God, like, wow, you made 6 figures. And I was like, I did not make 6 figures on this event. There was no making of 6 figures. But also I was like, even the night of, we had our little reception. Were you at the reception? On the Friday night?
Yes.
Yeah. And there were like charcuterie plates and like people weren't eating them. And I was like, I just need to tell you that every one of these plates is $45. And I'm going to need you all to eat some crackers. And but it's so much risk. You have no idea what people are going to come and what it's going to be like. And so we've been really blessed by it. But yeah, it's just in person is a different beast.
Do you find, because it's a lot of risk, but it can be a mind game too. Especially, I think, in the middle. It's the middle where it can feel, but I think you and Maria do, and maybe it's from the outside looking in. I think you do a good job of bringing people along the whole journey and sticking with it right to the end. That was actually one thing that Mel and I really wanted to do the last in-person event. It was like, we called it running through the finish line. Because in the past, we've stopped short. And we could have helped more people. We could have had more people there, but we were just like, nah, well, I guess it's over. Like, I guess this is the amount of people, but it's like you got to run through that finish line and share about some of your experiences in that. And I don't even know if this past event, because I think this was your biggest investment for,
Yeah.
Is there a moment where you were like,
totally, many moments. Yeah. I think what was really interesting, and like, I'll be so candid on this podcast, but because I haven't talked about this anywhere else, but like what was interesting about this was we upped the investment for the participants, and almost like, I don't want to say it was a mistake because I think the value was there, but we are not used in Canada to spending the way Americans spend. Like, and that's just the truth. Like, we don't have events at that price point, right? People aren't paying $600 for a day and a half. Like, while in the States, you pay $1,000 for a day. And like, that's just like more of the culture. So what was really interesting was it was a way slower sell than we were expecting. And that was really hard for us. We ended up with 140 women. That was awesome. Our last event that we had 140 or 130 women at, we sold out in 2 weeks. So we were selling like this event up until like probably 2 weeks before the event, 140. We had capacity for more. And there was actually a feeling of that where we were like, very happy with the women who had invested, but also a feeling of like, oh, like we actually didn't meet our goals. Like we thought more people would be interested in this. We thought this, we thought that, we thought this. And that was really interesting of a mindset for us to actually ask ourselves, like, why do we actually think that it didn't sell that well? And we realized we're like, people didn't like the day and a half. Like people, and that we were like, oh, we just wanted to give more value. People actually didn't want more value. They didn't want a full day and a half. Like it took away from their family life. The price point may have been too high. Like, and then now we have our second event coming up in October, our next event coming up in October. We're 105 tickets sold already, which is like way farther than we would have been at this point in 2 weeks. And and people are still trickling in kind of every day, and we don't even have speakers announced yet. So it's like, and we right-sized the price, and we went back to the Saturday only, and like and so it was a lot of learning. But one of the things I will say, no matter what you're selling, the behind the scenes is so important because people want to feel part of it. And I think that that's a mistake a lot of people make. And Andrea, like I totally get what you mean, because I know through your experience, like when you're selling something really consistently, you're tired of it. Like I'm like, there was a point where I was like, I don't care if anyone else buys a ticket. Like I'm at the point where I'm done. Like but I know the longer vision of it is like, if I want the next event to sell really, really well, I need to start building the wait list while I'm in the energy of this.
Yeah.
Because people want to be part of something that's working. So I think like if I can give any advice for someone who's like maybe putting on an event, I don't always believe in like selling a next event. Like people always ask, they're like, oh, like sell from stage, like should I do it? And I'm always like, it kind of depends on your style. We do it, but like I don't recommend it for everybody. But what I would recommend is like having somewhere where you can point people to be part of the next experience, whether that be a wait list, whether that be like something. Because people are gonna like look at what you're doing and have FOMO, and that's your best opportunity to kind of capture them. And because people forget, they're like, they move on, whatever that looks like. So thank you for saying that. Like it is a bit of a grind for us as well, because sometimes we're like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. But it does come with, I think, like if you want it to be something that you're building, this is like some of the blocks.
Totally. And I think it's not making it about you. It's making it about you. You want to help people and have them there. Yeah, I'm happy you shared that, because I really do. I have so much respect for people who host events. And even like that's actually how I started my speaking career. It was through my one-on-one clients, and they were hosting events. And it's same thing. They're 6-figure investments. And I find that in the growing process, you get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
And the feedback can be very confusing if you let it be, because everybody has a different opinion about everything, and you got to stay centered, but you also want to learn and you want to grow. And I found with a lot of my clients, that was actually really part of their growing as an entrepreneur as well, is like just that whole process from start to afterwards. Did you find that was something that impacted you, was like the feedback part?
Yeah, so truthfully, I'm a very sensitive nugget. This is, some people don't know this about me, but I'm like, I think it's because I'm so relationship oriented that like, even I remember like one of our first events, someone gave some feedback about some food, and I've been like, yes, it was our second big one, and someone was like, it'd be nice if there were more dairy-free alternatives. And now every single time I see like a coffee canister, I'm like, is there milk there? Do you think that person is here today? Like I'm so worried about that. But you know what was really interesting, Andy, about the feedback? And so you have to know with running large scale events. So I would say anything above 20 people, you are never going to please everybody. Like never. And it's like a wedding, right? Like I remember at my wedding, people raved with the food. People came up to me, they're like, wow, like arancini, like so delicious. And other people being like, there were too many appetizers and I got too full in the appetizers, so I couldn't eat dinner. And I'm like, you ate the appetizers. Like, I wasn't holding you down, But it was like just the opinion they had, right? And so I have to remember that when running events as well, that it's like, people, the feedback was really interesting from our October event, because people said, you know, I wanted more inspiration. I didn't feel like I was inspired. And then other people would say, too much inspiration. I wanted more tactical. I want less tactical. I want, and I was like, oh my God, like, how do we please these people? And so that's why we did the breakout rooms this time. And like, so you're always kind of responding, but it's just being clear. Like, this is why we don't actually really make it about the speakers or about the topics. We make it about the room because it's really about the network. It's about the community. It's about like, I am very confident. And Andy, I know, because you spoke our last one, you ran like a networking activity. It's hard to get these women to stop talking to each other. Like they're there for each other. So it's like that's really what we make the spirit of it, and rather than making it about like something bougie or like anything like that. But what I will say is that like it's just the reminder that like not everything is for everybody, and yeah, you have to be okay with it. And Maria and I we take it so personally. So anyone listening, just know we've read all of these forums and we take it personally. But we take it personally, but it's also like remembering that it's like you're not going to please everyone. And you have to build from that place. But I think getting feedback is really important.
I do too. And I'm like you. I'm very sensitive as well. But I do think the more you run it and the more you get feedback, the more you're like, okay, it's not so much about just like, being liked. It's like, what's the thing that you
No.
create that's actually going to create the value?
And even this time, like I was really happy with the feedback that we got. Like, and again, like great in gratitude, like the negative feedback we got, like reading it and being like, something that was really interesting was a lot of feedback we got was about wanting more Canadian. And like with everything that's going on right now, like in our economy. And so that was interesting because a few months ago, an American speaker may have felt more expansive.
Yeah.
But right now it feels like maybe it's taking away from a spot from a Canadian speaker. And so it was really interesting, like the response from it. And it would have been really easy for me to get my back up. Like, oh my God, like, we're bringing these people in, like, like whatever. And I was like, no, people are responding to like what's going on. And like, I need to hear that. Or like, someone wrote, love it, like so happy, but would have loved like more protein in the mornings. And I was like, oh, I don't actually think we were clear enough that breakfast isn't included. Like,
Right.
but that's great information. Like, and that was really helpful. It could have been easy for me to be like, but we gave you yogurt. But like, no, I'm like, no, perfect. So thank you. So I think it's like really cultivating that. But it's hard because I've seen feedback before on other events, not luckily none of mine, but like, where it's highly personal to the host. And so I think that that's also a risk you run when you run a community, is that it's not about you. And that's why like we make it like really not about us, but like it can be sometimes. And so being open to that is so important, being open to like, what's possible and what people are looking for, but also knowing not everybody's gonna be your person. And there are people who come to our events I know who haven't liked them. And I'm like, blessings. I hope you find what you're looking for. Like, and that's actually okay, and that's part of the energy of it.
Yeah. And I think that's just so relatable to so many different things. It's like feedback in socials, feedback in business, clients, like literally all of the things. It's like it takes courage to ask for the feedback, but I think that's the quickest way that you can grow. And you got to learn, like it's not personal. It's about using it to become better, whatever that means.
Totally. And it doesn't mean it doesn't suck. Every time we get feedback, I'm always like, why God? Why? And then I'm like, okay, but you know what? This is going to make us better and it's going to make it more helpful. And because I'm so sensitive, like my initial inclination is to be like, don't send the form. I don't want to know. Like, and but it has been so helpful and really good. So I think just trying to find ways that you can get that feedback and listening to also what people are telling you anecdotally, like, that's a big thing. I have a lot of trouble like receiving, like that's like a big struggle I have was like, I always joke if people send me a nice text message, like I won't open it like for months. And then like 3 months later, I'm like, hey, you sent me this nice text message. I'm now checking in to see how you're doing, but also like, thank you for that. But like, I've been thinking about this for 3 months every single day. And that's a skill I'm working on. But like at the events, people will come up to me and they're like, oh my God, like this is the best event I've ever been to. And I'm like, oh yeah, but did you see that this went wrong? And then did, like I'm really tired or like whatever. And it's actually just receiving like some of that stuff too, because I think there's a lot of magic in that as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So tell us more about, do you have upcoming events? Like how can people learn about what you're doing, what you're up to? Could be anything from social to in-person events.
Oh my God, I'm up to so many things. But also trying to slow down because Annie, I'm having a baby, this, but like,
No.
that's the biggest thing I'm up to, I would say. But yeah, so lots of exciting things. One of the best ways like you can connect with us is definitely on social. So at Kristina.Bartold or at the Social Snippet. I also hang out on LinkedIn, much like Andy, so feel free to come over. And also in the Social Business Club, which is where I coach entrepreneurs, small businesses with Maria on how to grow on social and how to build community. If you use the code podcast, you can get your first month for $1. And then, on the High by Women front, we've got a few things brewing. So October 18th, we have our event in Burlington at the Royal Botanical Gardens. It's going to be amazing. We already have over 100 women committed. It's going to be incredible. You can actually use the code podcast as well for $50 off a ticket. So I'll leave that here for your audience, Andy. And some little other things are kind of brewing, but the best way to do that would be, joining our email list and kind of checking it out. But Andy is a High by Women regular, so hopefully you'll see her at some of our stuff too.
I'm an ambassador at this point.
I love it. And I won't share our High by Women story.
And you can if you want.
I will, because it's so funny, but because
It
I
is.
think it's funny from the sense of you never know where anything's going to lead. But Andy, when we ran our first one, I asked Andrea to speak, and I said, hey, here's this application, but I really would like you to speak. So if you could fill it out, I want you to speak. And she kind of was like, don't really think it's my thing.
I didn't say that. So what happened was you said you nudged and was like, you should fill out this application. And I'm like, okay. And then I went to fill it out and I was like, who is this for? So then I messaged Maria and I'm like, Maria, tell me more about this event. And then I was like, I don't know. So then I just didn't apply. And then you thought that I did apply because I was like, yeah, I'm going to apply. So then I think you were talking to Maria being like,
well, we're making the schedule. And I'm like, oh, and then Andy, I'd love Andrea Parker to do something. And she was like, Andy didn't apply. And I'm like, perfect. So then I messaged Andrea and she's like, I didn't apply, but I think this might not be my audience. Andy's goals were a bit different at that time. And so I was like, listen, I think these are your people. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. That's fine. But I think these are your people. And then he was like, all right, I'll do it. And they were your people.
oh my God, we joke now that I'm ambassador, but I will say I'm probably one of your biggest believers in this because I always say that you bring together the best people. You truly do. And I also joke that I usually say no to whatever you say for me to do, and then I end up doing it and it being a brilliant idea. So I just need to skip forward.
Yeah. Andy plays hard to get with me. She plays hard to get. I put something out there that she circles back. But yeah. I'm glad she spoke at I By Women and then did it again and has found so much community there. So yeah, you'll hopefully see Andy at some of our events and get to kind of hang out with us both, which is so fun.
Yes. So if you were to leave people with one last thing from your heart to their heart, what would you want to share?
That's a great question. I think to try something new. And whether that's on social or meeting something new or in community, whatever it is, if you have a nagging feeling on something, it could be the thing. And so I think just giving it a shot and really just giving it a test, I think give it a shot.
I love that. I think that you're getting me thinking too. Is there anything you're going to try?
Labor, perhaps. I'm just kidding.
You're in a big season of trying different things.
Yeah, I'm about to try a whole bunch of things. Motherhood. No, I think the thing that I'm actually trying is I'm going to be trying some distance for my business. And so that's going to be as somebody who I don't call myself a workaholic because I actually think there's a connotation with that isn't really mine. But because I don't use it to cope up with things, but I love to work. I find so much joy in working. And I think I'm about to have an identity shift that I'm hoping to find a lot of joy in too. But that's going to mean some space here. And so I'm trying to build good systems and I'm trying to get there. And so we'll see what that looks like. But hopefully I'm not in labor working. That's going to be goal one. So stay tuned. But yeah.
That is for you. I really am. I feel like you will do well with it. Might be a little bit of a transition, but yeah. I feel like you'll do great.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thanks so much for having me, Andy. This is so fun.
So good. Thank you, Kristina.
Woo-hoo. Thanks for listening to WTF. Where's the fun?
We're Andrea and Mel, and we're so excited to be on this journey with you to see how fun it can get.
If today's episode brought a little bit more fun into your world, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review.
And remember, life and business is so much better when you're following the fun. So let's have some fun.